Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to everybody who's joined this webinar. First of all, let me extend my thanks on behalf of all of the Ramcoites here for having accepted the invitation with such a short notice and attending with such fervor. We hope that our presentation today would entice you into understanding our products and solutions in terms of what we have to offer, specifically to the BFSI sector, and we look forward to hearing from many of you in the coming days. Just a quick note to everybody, just so you all know how to interact through the webinar. All of the participants are put on mute, just so there's not too much of noise and interference there. It is just to keep everybody on the same line. There will be a 10-minute question and answer session at the end of the webinar, about an hour from now. But through the course of the webinar, please feel free to jot in your questions and send them through the chat window, and our organizer here will definitely keep track of all the questions so that they may be answered towards the end of the session. I hope this is okay with everybody. So let's again getting on with the actual getting into the webinar itself. Let's look at a quick transformation that the digital era has brought in, specifically in banks, the entire timeline itself. It has been a very short but a very speedy and fast movement into the digital era, and banks by large have imbibed the digital technology into their systems to enable a very good interaction with the customers, and customers have been at the delight side of the entire chain. As we look at it, you can see that the whole thing began with the workstations and the computerization of the banks itself way back about 15-20 years ago, and then followed by that a very quick transformation into how the entire internet can be brought to the hands of the end user or the customer, was brought in and imbibed by every single bank in India at a very rapid pace, where the advent of CBS became a very big revolutionizing thing for many of the banks, so that all their internal core banking operations were streamlined, and they all had very standardized systems which ensured that much of the data and much of the information collected was streamlined and in line with what the banks would expect. And then came, of course, multiple advancements in terms of tablets and smartphones, and now it's the whole talk about the IoT or the Internet of Things in terms of watches, glasses, and wearables. So banks have definitely taken on in a much faster way in terms of taking this technology to the end customer, and now virtually every single person has the bank and the operations right on his palm. So what does it actually do? I mean, we also have to see the flip side of what exactly this has done, both to the customer as well as to the internal systems of the bank. As far as the customer is concerned, definitely the internet banking, the computerization, the ATMs, the fast online transactions, including the vendor transactions and stuff, and right now everything is on the mobile, which makes it virtually anywhere. So from anywhere they can do any kind of banking operations, makes it the best possible scenario for the customer. Definitely the best possible scenario for the customer. But on the flip side, what has this led to? It has led to a mass inflow of data, a humongous number of transactions that comes from multiple channels. And so what has happened is the data volumes of transactions have increased. The inconsistency of data from multiple channels that have increased. And when it comes to finally some kind of a reporting at the end of the cycle that says, okay, what is exactly my profitability and stuff, the data collection has become a very big task for the bank, and it's become a time-consuming activity as well. And what it leads to is basically subjective interpretations based on whatever is the mood or whatever is the interpretation taken by the person who is actually taking the data in. Now this brings out a three-pronged challenge for the banks. First is, of course, first and foremost for every bank is about how can I be profitable and how can I sustain in this ever-competitive market. Every single day there's a new bank that is coming up. There is a new product that is coming up that is eating away into what was profitable probably yesterday. So the entire thing is about how quickly I can react to the entire change in transformation, right from I'm planning to measuring what I have achieved, to monitoring whether I'm achieving at the right pace, managing the entire expectations, finally analyzing whether what is exactly going wrong or what is exactly going right, so that I can follow the right path and getting back into the replanning so that you keep strategizing each and every day. So that's become the bread and butter of every single bank right now. It is no longer just create a loan, create a deposit, and there ends the matter. So it's always an everyday challenge. The second challenge is, of course, coming in the form of a regulatory compliance. Now the regulators, specifically RBI in this case, has come up with enormous amount of laws and restrictions and compliance rules that every bank is subject to, and this also poses a lot of challenges for the banks, both in terms of technology as well as in terms of compliance to reporting and the likes to RBI. And why does this become a big challenge? It's because there is a complexity in the way the reporting is being asked for, specifically in terms of the RBI regulatory returns or the ADF returns as it is termed right now. The accuracy of data is always a question because when it is compiled by different people, there are different interpretations. The consistency across periods and across departments and across branches within the same bank seems to be a bigger challenge. And yes, the top and the foremost is RBI also strictly stipulates deadlines and timelines for each and every report, and it's always a cat and mouse fight to ensure that the right data is presented at the right time to the right authorities. The third, of course, angle comes in terms of the complexity in the type of transactions that each and every bank have, which leads to a lot of transactions that are in unreconciled state, so to speak. So there are multiple instruments that are there. There are forex transactions that happen day in and day out. There are clearing transactions within the bank and across bank, like interbank transactions. And also there are a lot of internal accounts that happen with suspense accounts and other mirror accounts, which need to be reconciled almost on a daily basis. So these become the biggest, piece of challenges for every single bank. So how does Ramco try to address all of these in a single package? So for the bank, as far as Ramco is concerned, it comes as a single point solution in terms of a complete ERP suite for the banks. We'll get into the modules of each and every bank in a few moments so that we see how it affects or how it helps the banks take care of its internal operations. The banking analytics, which takes care of the complete measurement, performance measurement and management, business intelligence and analytics, and going ahead with the planning and budgeting as well. So this way they can plan ahead, keep analyzing, find the measures that need to be on the metric that needs to be monitored on a periodic basis, and replan as and when it occurs. And then, of course, it is our RBI ADF solution. It's a full-blown ADF solution which takes care of all of the regulatory returns that every single bank has to submit to the regulators on a periodic basis, and it's end-to-end configured as a chain right from the source system all the way to submission into the RBI. And then we also have a reconciliation solution which takes care of the third prong of the problem that we saw earlier in the previous slide. Getting on to the ERP side or ERP suite, how exactly is our solution going to be of big help for you? What are the typical challenges, especially in the banking sector? There's always a feeling that there is nothing called a BFSI specific integrated ERP, because ERP typically is associated with manufacturing concerns and the supply chain mechanisms. But that is not the truth. That is not the truth. The truth is that Ramco does have very specific solutions that are catered towards specific targeted solutions for the BFSI sector in terms of the ERP. And that's a fully integrated ERP with complete management modules on the purchase, the payables management, the fixed asset, right from all the way from your asset procurement up to depreciation and cleaning it off. The global taxing solution, which comes with taxing rules which are pre-configured for across multiple regions of the world. There are inbuilt dashboards right on the ERP that gives you very good visibility and the visualization of how exactly your current status is. And it operates on what we call as a single version of truth, so that no matter how you view each of the screens, the purchase orders or the reports, they all pertain to the same exact single version of truth. The next is, of course, the expense control module, which is a very good, the perfect solution for the rising cost because of non-management or lack of management of the expenses across various cost elements. Now, this comes with a complete suite for budgeting as well as planning and performing a variance analysis, finding out what the variance is, and keep readjusting your budgets or keep readjusting your priorities and your business so that you manage your costs. The next module within the ERP system is fixed assets, which takes care of an end-to-end complete management of all your procurement of assets, right from your budgeting, your capital budgeting in terms of how you procure your assets, to managing the entire life cycle of the asset history itself, including the final reconciliations of your asset inventory and depreciation, and followed by tracking and transfer of assets between your departments. The same ERP solution also has a complete vendor management solution, which takes care of complete management of your vendors, right from your vendor selection in terms of your RFQs to all the way to your management of your vendor and a periodic update on your vendor efficiency and your processes, such that you can maintain your good vendors, manage the vendors where you are losing on cost, and procure the new vendors where you see some opportunities. This is the entire solution map of ERP products for the BFSI sector. With the first part is, of course, the basic necessity of the general accounting, which is completely on an enterprise model. The account setup can be completely configured as per the individual bank needs, and it comes with the predefined cash and bank accounting based on our predefined practices that we have implemented in several banks. As I explained earlier, the payables management starts all the way from invoicing to debit and credit memos to payments, adjustments, balance transfers, and comes with pre-built reports which ensures that you keep track of all the payables and you keep track of your how much you're paying across which vendor and where exactly you're losing out on cost, for example. The fixed asset management covers the entire life cycle of the asset, starting all the way from your budgeting or your capital budgeting, and then going on to your acquisition, your asset creation, the periodic depreciation processing. Again, the depreciation is also not a static methodology, but a formula-driven methodology that can take care of various parameters and based on which your depreciation can be automatically or periodically calculated. The inventory reconciliation, then the asset transfer, and finally up to the asset disposal as well. The next is, of course, the procurement or the vendor management module. This takes care of the complete procurement cycle all the way from your purchase request to your RFQ to the analysis of your quotations, raising a purchase order, and then tracking your goods receipt across multiple receipts, for example, and tracking it against the purchase order so that at any point in time you're aware of what is still pending. And combined with the payables and the fixed asset module, the procurement module, it completes the entire life cycle of the ERP for the banks. And every single module here comes predefined or pre-configured reports, which will provide all the necessary standard reports that are necessary for any business to function. Now that's about the basic functionality of each of the modules. But we go a step beyond and take technology right to our advantage and see how each and every day we can assist not just the customer end but also the internal users of the banks, so that we take care of even their operations in a very simple and effective manner. So we have what we call as a registered mail it functionality. There's something called a thumb it functionality, a Hobbit, and a prompt it. Just to give a brief, which we'll go through a couple of slides definitely, is mail it is where you don't have to go log into a screen and find out something to tap in something and then give a search, wait for some time, and then look for an answer. From anywhere, you just send an email, and there are mail services that understands what exactly you want, and the system responds with the actual information that you're requesting. Thumb it, specifically for all the mobile devices, every single thing is mobile enabled. All of our transactions are mobile enabled, which means that it always allows your single finger click to take care of most of the common activities that you would do. The Hobbit is where we have a complete screen of a module-wise screen where the entire screen will provide you with all of the functionality that is needed for a particular activity. For example, if you take a purchase order, every single activity that is associated with the purchase order will be available in a single screen without having to navigate across multiple menu items and screens. And prompted is something where it does an intuitive suggestive methodology. And this is what we call as a zero UI, powered by the genies, gestures, speech, or just a click of an email. So what would a typical mail it functionality aid you? So typical accounts payable function, what exactly happens? A supplier would call you to check what exactly is outstanding on his plate. And usually what happens is the accounts payable manager receives an email or call, logs into the application, taps in a few numbers, does a search criteria for that particular vendor, and finally launches a report and then says, okay, I'll call you back in about 30 minutes, and then gives an answer. Now, all that is not required. The ERP function just provides the mail service to the supplier directly. So all they have to do is send an email with a particular subject, a predefined subject, like what we are showing right here, and they get a response within minutes or within seconds as to what exactly they've asked for. So that way they have information at their fingertips and they don't need to wait for a call or call somebody and wait for them to search and respond. AMIT is basically for all of our mobility solutions. So every single thing, it's not again a mobile device is not again a usual screen-based solution. It's all action-based, activity-based solution, which means that every single activity comes as a click of a button, and you can basically do all of your normal activities or your most frequent activities with a click of a button right from your mobile device. For example, If you want to approve an invoice, you just go into the payables management, click on search between two dates, get the list of invoices, and you know that you want to approve one of the invoice. You select that invoice, hit the approve, and if you want additional information, you also have attachments that can come straight into your mobile. It shows you what exactly is the invoice that you're currently going to approve it. Hit the approve, and automatically your invoice is authorized. So everything happens right on the mobile with a click rather than screen-based solutions. Now coming back to the desktop methodology, that is where we have what is called the Hobbit, where it has intuitive and very informative sections on the entire screen itself that provides the end user with all of the functionality that is needed for that particular activity. In this particular thing, we have shown a sample of an AP invoice hub. So for an invoice, what are all the things that are needed? The to-do list is available right here. So what are all the to-dos for me as far as the invoice is concerned is right there, so you don't have to go through a now formal search criteria. The quick launch buttons are available. The preferences can be set for setting what exactly you want each of these sections to be. So you want to tailor your screen to show only the last 3 days of invoices, for example. You can tailor it so that like that. And then you have each and every action buttons directly for processing of the individual documents. And you have your most commonly used actions right at the right corner of the screen, which you can use for most frequently used actions. And with a single click, you can view all the information, select what exactly you want, and then finally say, okay, this is the invoice that I have to pay, and then hit the pay, and automatically it defaults every single information into your invoice payment screen so that you can, with a single click, hit the pay and then send the payment also. And in case there is a check that you have to print and send it, the print check facility is right on the same screen so that you don't have to take the information, send it to somebody else, do a print check, and then come back and then update the information. So everything is within the same screen so that you don't have to navigate anywhere outside. The next one is about Prompt It, or what we have as the Ramco Genie. This one basically, on a click of a single button, it shows you what is the most appropriate action that you have to take for each and every actionable item that you have to. For example, each of these things immediately it shows the recommended action for this is to raise a purchase order on this particular supplier. And how does it do it? It keeps track of all your previous history as to how exactly this particular item has been ordered in the past, and it takes some heuristics of most frequently ordered supplier, and then selects that supplier by default. On top of it, you can also give some rules on top of it so that it is not always determined by the system. You can configure the rules so that the most defaulted or the defaulted information is configured according to the end user preference as well. Typical recommendations would be to open a contract, to create a release slip, to create a purchase order, to create an RFQ, etc. So everything is defaulted, including the supplier, the address, the quantity, the price, based on the previous latest information, so that you can click it with a single click. So now moving on to the banking analytics suite. So all of this time we looked at how the ERP suite actually assists in the functioning of the bank. Next would be into the banking analytics portion. So what's the need of the hour? Like I said earlier, there are multiple systems within the bank which provide a lot of data, like the CBS, the Treasury, the mobile banking, the CRM, the ALM, the AML, and each of these provide their own set of data or the reports. But these are all discrete points of data that potentially is useful for that particular department, but for the overall bank, the data and the discrete data is not just sufficient. There needs to be some more inferences based on which decisions can be taken. And that's when the conversion of that information comes very handy. Now that's where most of the systems get integrated into a centralized repository, and we take care of predefined reports in terms of balance sheets, income statements, and other purchase order statements, and so on and so forth. But this also falls short of certain things. This provides the necessary information by combining multiple systems, but what it does not do is give you the right insights for you to take an appropriate decision. And that is where analytics pitches in, which basically collaborates data from various different segments, allows you to analyze the data across various dimensions, and provides meaningful insights which will basically deliver the right information for the bank or for the organization to take the right decisions to move forward. The business intelligence or the banking analytics is powered by a very intuitive self-driven, self-service analytics mode for very effective decision making. It has complete information at the fingertips from across various systems. It collaborates the data into a single repository and provides the analysis across various dimensions in terms of geography, in terms of products, branches, in terms of the differentiation between your PSLs versus non-PSL type of products, and in terms of your regions, and so on and so forth. And it gives you a very high level and a very quick view of the overall top line in a single view. It can be completely customized according to the role, and it has an interactive slice and dice, which means that at any point in time we can have a click and view methodology wherein you can start filtering right from the topmost view and get all the way down to a transaction level and find out what exactly has gone right or gone wrong with respect to a particular scenario. And each of these things is available completely on mobile, so everything is mobile friendly at the and up-to-date information at your palm, which means that every single analysis and every single CXO level meetings can happen with a single dashboard that spans across multiple departments and gives you a high-level overview of the entire analysis itself. The framework also contains what we have as the analytical reporting and performance management solutions. The analytical reporting provides the end user the flexibility of slicing and dicing across various dimensions, including the supplier, the region, the branch, the product, and the product type. And by that they can easily slice and dice across various different dimensions and narrow down on a particular information that they want to analyze. And each and everything comes with a complete drill through to the lowest level details of individual transactions, which means that at any point in time you can go down to the account level details and find out what exactly are the participative accounts that basically provides this particular information. It also comes with a performance management solution in terms of KPI based performance measuring and monitoring, with a complete suite of how you monitor it, the periodic monitoring with predefined signal indicators, which again can be configured according to the end user or the bank's flex preferences. And it can show you whether you're on the right track, or if not, and what exactly you need to do so that you basically are on the right track, and if you can go what is supposed to be done when you want to move from a red to a yellow or a yellow to a green, and so on and so forth. So this way you keep track of each and every performance metric across your organization and find out where exactly you're lacking and where exactly you're gaining, and focus on only those metrics how you want to progress forward. So the banking analytics and the ERP would take care of the base necessity of how to remain profitable and how to sustain in this ever competitive market. The second piece of it comes in in the terms of regulatory reporting needs of every single bank at this point in time, as RBI comes in and mandates that every single bank has to conform to automatically submitting all of the regulatory returns. There comes a timeliness, there is an accuracy, there is a data complexity and a consistency of data as well across periods that is expected by the Reserve Bank of India in terms of all of these regulatory reports. So what are the challenges, basic challenges in terms of regulatory reporting? The distributed data across various departments. The methodologies that are followed at different branches are probably different. So today, the biggest problem for many of the banks is collating the data from various different branches, various different units or departments, and different channels as well. I mean, there is a lot of transactional data that comes as form of mobile banking transactions, some in the form of ATM, and these are all with respect to different departments, so those have to be collaborated. Then the branch level data has to be aggregated, and then finally when it comes into the reporting itself, all of these have to be collated into a single location and then finally submitted as a report. At this point in time, the quality of data also becomes a bigger challenge because the data that comes from two different regions or two different departments may not carry the same kind of information. So the consistency of data and information it carries needs to be pruned right at the time of collation of data. And it's always a race against time because most of the there are several of it. Almost 70% of the regulated returns are monthly reports, and about 10 to 15% of it are daily and weekly reports, which means that there's not enough time for each of the report to be even compiled and submitted on a monthly basis. You hardly have about 20 days from the end date of the month to the following deadline of that particular report on a monthly report case for you to submit the report. So what exactly does Ramco have to offer so that all of these things are taken care of by a single solution and it's not distributed across multiple things? For the distributed data problem, what we need is a powerful ETL tool which will ensure that seamless data integration is provided from across source systems regardless of how the source systems look like. It could be Excel files in certain cases, it could be text data, it could be access databases for some of the units, or it could be a streamlined CBS data. So it could come in various different formats, and what we need is a powerful ETL tool that ensures that there is a seamless data integration from all of these different corners. And the quality of data, there should be a built-in quality data quality rules to ensure that there is a data accuracy and consistency across periods. We cannot report something this month and then completely change it when we come over to the next month. And the race against time is always there. So what we need in that sense is a completely automated workflow-driven process that runs on an autopilot mode so that there is not much of manual intervention that is required at all for you to have an ensure that there is a timely report delivery. So these three artifacts are what is combined into what we have as the Ramco RBI ADF solution. So all of these three are put together as a single solution, and the best part of it is it's completely compliant with RBI architecture, RBI mandated architecture in terms of the data acquisition layer, the integration and storage layer, the data conversion layer, and the data submission layer. So each of these loosely coupled layers are available right within our solution, and we'll quickly get into how these are catered to. The entire data acquisition layer is orchestrated by our integrated ETL engine, which allows you to integrate data from various different source systems and combine it into what we call as the interfaces. And the data integration layer is powered by our pre-built CDR. So the CDR comprises of all of the different functional areas of the bank that are necessary for not only the regulatory reports but also for various different internal MIS reports as well. So there are predefined data structures and data models for loans, deposits, trade finance, treasury, customer delivery channels, remittances, forex transactions, etc., and risk. So all of these things are predefined data models. So the integration into the CDR comes by way of predefined transformations that have pre-built connectors to various standardized CBS systems as well, and it can also have additional connectors to other systems or ancillary or surround systems of the banks. And the CDR is what is a single version of truth that powers all of the regulatory reporting by way of what we call as the configurable rule engine. The rule engine basically has the predefined rule sets for all of the 223 ADF reports that are mandated by RBI. It was 223 earlier, and it is currently at a count of 234 reports, and all of these reports are already available in the solution with predefined rules defined for all of these reports. So once the CDR is processed from the source systems, all it needs is to kick off the report generation, and it automates the entire generation by a predefined workflow process to generate each and every single report that is needed for submission at the right time. And for auditability purpose that RBI mandates, every single report has what we call as the view CDR or the download CDR functionality, which immediately provides the end user the complete information of what are the candidate accounts that basically totaled up or aggregated up to the specific report, and it's available at a report specific level. So this will ensure that at any point in time when RBI or the regulator comes in for an auditing, both in terms of report delivery as well as the consistency and the accuracy of data, you always have the backing of the granular records that will total up to what is shown in the report. Now, as I said before, the CDR basically is a comprehensive CDR which powers not just the RBI ADF reports, which totals only 234, but it also has additional data elements that powers both our internal BI solution as well as predefined MIS reports, which completely come which are defined for various different internal departments of every bank. And the same solution comes out with all the different formats as per RBI recommendations. For many reports are in PDF or on Excel format, some of them are in ASCII format, a few of them in XML format, and going forward pretty much every single report will be XBRL compliant, and our solution is already XBRL compliant in the sense that all of the reports where the taxonomy is available, the XBRL generation is automated completely right from within our solution. So there is no need for an additional solution in terms of submission of your XBRL as well. Now, solution highlights, basically it's completely modular, meta-driven, and workflow enabled, which means that every single thing is right into the metadata, and nothing is predefined or hard-coded for any specific bank. All the customizations and configurations will happen at the metadata layer with respect to a particular bank, where the product codes are different and the customer codes are different, the priority codes are different, etc. Those are the only metadata that will need to be changed for bank to bank, but otherwise everything is the metadata driven, and since it has a pre-built model for CDR which caters to every single data element that is needed for all of the regulatory reports, that means that all of your regulatory report needs are completely taken care of by the single solution. And as shown here, the end user configurable workflow means that even though it comes with a predefined workflow for each and every report, based on the business process of each and every bank, we can customize and change the configurable workflow to match what exactly is the process that is required for generation, approval, and submission of the report. The next we'll talk about is a brief into the reconciliation solution, which also forms part of the overall landscape of BFSI solutions. So why do we need reconciliation? That's because of the increasing number of forex transactions that we see day in and day out. There are a lot of complex interbank transactions that happen. So that means that at the end of the day, there needs to be a complete reconciliation of all of the internal books of accounts with respect to the current bank and whatever is the correspondent bank that is involved. There are various instruments that through which transactions take place, like the DDs, the checks, the challans, and the manual deposits and withdrawals, etc., including ATM-based withdrawals, etc. And then these are primarily customer-facing challenges or customer-facing transactions which end up in reconciliation challenges. Apart from that, we also have what we have as the internal reconciliation needs in terms of reconciling your balance sheet versus P&L statement or your income statement versus all your cash flows, etc. So those also have to be internally reconciled. And of course, there is always an end of the day where you have to match all of your GLs with your individual account statements to ensure that your GL balances at the end of the day are tallied and are in proper order at the end of each and every day. So this ensures, this will need what we have as the completely robust reconciliation tool, and a single reconciliation tool basically takes care of all of these needs. And the reconciliation tool is completely modular and platform agnostic, which means that it can be plugged in right with any of your source systems. And it's a completely plug-and-play model, which means that it does not depend on an existence of a specific source system. It is file-based and a file-driven mechanism, which means that all we need to have is two different sets of files and a set of rules that need to be configured for you to do the reconciliation. None of it is, where we once the solution is deployed into the onto the customer site, there is absolutely no need for any of us to come in and start changing any codes or anything like that. It's completely configured through a robust rule engine where there are various business rules and validation rules that you can set up all at the customer end itself or the bank end itself, which have multiple rules that can be set to ensure that two different sets of statements are matched. It has a complete user and role level access to ensure that there is data privacy and secrecy are maintained. And it has a built-in maker-checker configuration, which means that all the reconciliations and approvals will not take place with a single click, but it goes through a proper maker-checker, and only then it gets applied into the system. And it's a completely file-based, user-configurable definition, which means that, again, apart from the rule that the end user or the bank can define, even each and every file, the structure can be defined. So tomorrow, if there is a need for a different kind of reconciliation between completely two different sets of bank statements which don't fall in line with the existing statements, those can be defined at runtime and taken in or consumed for reconciliation. And the single solution takes care of various different applications. Now we have shown only a few applications here. We have extended this, or our customers, in fact, I should say, that have been innovative in extending this for various different internal reconciliations that they want, even between the department expenses and cost elements and stuff like that, because the entire thing is just rule-based, and they can keep defining new file formats or new input formats and new rules to match two different sets of statements. By default, it comes pre-configured for all of your Nostro reconciliation, the banker account reconciliation, the balance sheet reconciliation, which is both GL-wise, the adjustment with HO and branch, any provision details that need to be enabled for bridging a gap between the trial balance and balance sheet, or any MOC changes that need to be taken care, those can also be taken care. The clearing reconciliation also comes as a default configuration for all of your clearing account, clearing instrument configurations. The banker's account reconciliation for internal accounts, and of course the GL reconciliation, which forms the basic bread and butter of every single day reconciliation need for every single bank, where the GL subheads are tallied or reconciled with the individual account statements. So it's a single solution which takes care of various different types of reconciliation needs as well. So that brings us to the overall, puzzle as to how Ramco provides an integrated solution with the ERP suite, the banking analytics, the ADF, and the reconciliation solution as a single point of solution, as an integrated component that can aid any bank in catering to any of its individual needs. And each of this is again plug and payable, which means that each of this can be bought and used as a standalone, as well as in an integrated fashion as well. Some of our customers that we are highlighting here, of course, are Citibank, DBS, Bank of India, State Bank, AMIT Corp, NBAD, Axis Bank, and several other banks. We've just positioned some of our more recent banks here. In terms of, I'll give a quick overview of how our customers, in terms of the BFSI sector, have been enabled with our solution. Citibank definitely has used our reconciliation and our procurement solution to the fullest extent, and in fact we should also thank Citibank as well, because they have extended our reconciliation solution for their internal purpose for various different applications of reconciling their internal department level accounts as well, as well as the default applications of nostril reconciliation and GL reconciliation. DBS Bank is one of the foreign banks where we have deployed our ADF solution, and they're completely happy, and right now in the support mode, and we have been supporting them for the past 1 year post the completion of the ADF solution itself, and we've delivered all of the ADF reports for them. And since it's a foreign bank, we also had to deliver what we call as the local gap solution, which basically converts the, which is essential for all of the accounting standards to be conformant to the Indian accounting standards. The State Bank of India, again, we have delivered our solution, the regulatory reporting solution. The same framework is delivered for them for their international banking group, where it delivers and powers their all 30 different foreign offices to collate the data from different 30 different foreign offices and generate the reports on a scheduled basis and submit it to them. Bank of India is one of our customers where we have our banking analytics solution. And at Axis Bank, we have our planning and budgeting solution as well, apart from various other point solutions. And Standard Chartered Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, all of them are our ADF customers. NBAD, all of them are our ADF customers. And that will bring it to the end of the content of the webinar itself. For the last 15 minutes, we will have our guest speakers. Unfortunately, due to a last-minute urgent need, Mr. Narayan Samant of DBS Bank couldn't attend this particular webinar, but he has conveyed that he was very much interested in coming on to the seminar so that he can talk about us briefly about our solutions, but unfortunately he was not there. So probably in our next webinar we will definitely invite him so that he can give us a few good words about us. We do have Mr. Mahesh Nair from Citibank, who will basically taking over from me right now in terms of how Ramco has provided certain solutions to aid their operations at Citibank.
Yeah, hi everybody. Am I audible?
Here's the volume is a little low. If you can increase the volume of your mic.
Just one sec. Is it better now?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody, and apologies for being a bit late in joining in. I think the key point that I really wanted to make was, as I was mentioning in previous discussions that I had also, is in terms of our usage and the relationship that we've had with Ramco, frankly stretches well over a decade back, and it's only grown over time. And more importantly, I think it's evolved from being, because we've started off with some fairly basic solutions which for certain specialized needs, but over time I think it's grown to a point where it's reached the status of full-fledged end-to-end automation solutions that we've adopted, and they've fulfilled some pretty specific niche requirements of ours, and more importantly, they do that across the spectrum of corporate banking services that we offer. So whether it is cash reconciliation, trade automation, and allied areas, across the board we've been using and various solutions under the whole automation framework, housed under different applications. We also have a few core product processors which we avail of, but I think what is the most exciting element of what we use is really the end-to-end automation piece, in terms of right from multi-format file uploads to generic rule-based engines for auto reconciliation to customer reporting in an automated fashion. So I think for us really the key has been the partnership that we've received in terms of looking at our internal processes and how do we get more and more productive, and the benefit that we derive from each new level of upgrade that we do for these solutions, how we evolve it to a next level, and how we derive therefore greater benefits as we go along. So as I said, in terms of areas that we use it, it's core product processors that we have, both in the payment space as well as in the trade space. Also in terms of end-to-end automation that we have looked at for reconciliation, and from a customer and to the other end of the spectrum where we are looking at automated customer delivery mechanisms as well. So it sort of spans a very wide and diverse range there. And I'm happy to take any specific questions maybe later on, but I think the key really, the key points that we I wanted to really stress upon was really the range that we've been able to derive, and the fact that the continuous evolution that we've had in the relationship. I think those are really the key points that we always appreciate when it comes to Ramco. So thanks for that.
Hi all. Thanks Mahesh. Audience, if you have any questions, please type it in the chat box. We will be more than happy to answer it.
So before we have the first question, area of it is in regards to area of compliance. How quickly can Ramco react to changes that are mandated by RBI? Because I understand the RBI gives mandatory changes from time to time, and how quickly can we react to it?
Yeah. Okay, so I believe that's the first question there. With the first bank, or one of the first banks being one of the first PSU banks being an early adopter of the entire ADF technology as well. And on top of that, we delivered the XBRL for the first report, which is the NID CSR, much before the deadline that they had. They were supposed to submit it by September of 2014, and they actually submitted much before that, and even the previous month they could submit it, and they got an appreciation from RBI for ensuring the commitment and the commitment that they showed in doing that. And ever since, we have always maintained that, and even through the latest changes, for example in the CRILC reports and stuff like that, we've maintained the changes in line with RBI's expectations, so that our customers are not impacted because of any of the norms that are brought in by RBI.
The next question is from Mr. Dominic. He wants to know the level of customization that you can offer with respect to reconciliation statement, analytics, and BI.
Okay, I'll take it one after the other. Reconciliation, as I told you, is a completely configurable, rule-based solution, which means that, there is not much of, I would say, customization that is required. So the terminologies, if I may just explain the difference of at least how I perceive customization versus configuration, is customization is where you need the technology partners like Ramco to come in and then change a functionality so that it fits or befits your need, versus configuration is where sufficient elements and sufficient rules are provided to the customer themselves so that they are able to change it at their end. And that is exactly how the reconciliation solution is defined or designed, where the entire functionality, starting with defining of how the input sources come, including what are the fields, what type of fields, what is the size of the fields, and what is the format of the field, is captured for each and every system. So for example, if you want to reconcile two different bank statements, each statement is first configured by the end customer themselves, and then the rules are defined to say which column or which field has to be reconciled or compared with which field, and you can provide variances also, that if it is within 0.01, 0.02, it is still considered as reconciled. And there is what is called an auto or a smart reconciliation, where it automatically takes these rules and combines it, and then the remaining portions, it shows up in a manual reconciliation where they have the power to choose which one to reconcile with which others. So the entire thing is configurable. So I would say on the reconciliation piece, there is not much of customization that is needed at all. On the analytics piece, again, it goes completely by the data warehouse, which is a completely well-rounded star schema design, which provides an end-to-end analytics. So customization, again, is, I would put it as a configuration, because those can again be done by the end bank or the end customer themselves. They can go into any of the existing analytical report and change the way it looks by simply customizing or configuring a different set of dimensions and measures. Now when it comes to ADF, it's a tricky one. Since we have handled the same regulated reports in multiple banks, we have gone through this exercise many times, and we have seen that there are occasionally certain places or certain areas where we will need some amount of customization because of the way that particular bank interprets RBI's regulations for that particular report. So yes, for ADF, there is a little bit of customization on the product side that goes in when we actually go into each and every bank. And yes, we have done the customizations for every bank at various levels. Does that answer your question, sir?
He also has a follow-up question. Do we have solutions specifically developed for housing finance companies?
Not specific to the housing finance companies, but for the NBFCs, which are right now on the anvil for submitting all their 16 or 17 regulatory returns, we are geared towards that. But only on the regulatory reporting side, and not anything for right now for the housing finance in terms of their core business areas.
Final question before we wind up, because we are running very out of time. So Ramco has recently signed up or signed a strategic initiative with ClickSense, which provides interactive analytics. How is that going to reflect in the product?
Thanks for that question. Yes, one of my slides actually showcased, the self-service analytics-based solution as well. It is already integrated into our solution, which means that all of the visualizations are, predefined into our solution, and the banking analytics comes powered with the self-service analytics dashboards, which means that by default, yes, we do provide the default dashboards, but once that is available, I would say the imagination is the limit to how you can configure your own dashboards, because it's powered by self-service, and the entire data and the analysis is completely at the hands of the end user, and you can definitely leverage that to provide very rich visualizations, not just for the sake of visualization, but in terms of richness of data analysis, and which will provide you various insights into typical data scenarios, which can effectively ensure that you can take very effective data decisions for your organization.
Hi, thank you. We are running out of time, and we are happy that you all were able to join this webinar. And for any more questions, please do feel free to mail to my email ID. It's kripaa.tk@ramco.com, and it will be forwarded to respective people, and I'll be able to answer. And I'll be able to forward the answers to you ASAP. And thanks all. Thank you for coming. And I will, Mahesh, thank you so much. Thanks for your valuable time. And we will be sharing this presentation to all the attendees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just sorry about that. Sorry, Yes, I know the thanks. Sorry. Yes, I know the thanks was delivered, but I just got a quick update from Mr. Narayan Samant of DBS. He was sorry for not being able to attend, but he sent a very quick note. I'll just read it so that his words are also heard by everybody. So it's in the words of Mr. Narayan Samant, who is the Executive Director of DBS Bank. We are very pleased with the quality of service and the focus Ramco has been providing to DBS, especially on the area of implementation. We sincerely appreciate your responsiveness and turnaround times. The momentum was picked up very well within the business users and has been consistent throughout. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for joining.